Imagine a world built entirely of paper, suddenly caught in a suffocating blizzard. Millions of hand-cut white tissue paper circles fall from a flat, matte blue skyboard, burying everything under a harsh, hissing wind. The storm is lethal for anything caught outside. This grasshopper, once a marvel of delicate paper engineering, has failed. His vibrant green color has faded to a muddy gray. His wings are damp and matted, and he is collapsing against the massive corrugated cardboard wall of the anthill. Inside that thick cardboard door, thousands of worker ants sit in perfectly climate-controlled rows, secure with massive stockpiles of balsa wood grain. Outside, isolation and the freezing wind guarantee a slow, silent end. Building an impenetrable shelter checks the box for basic biological survival. However, securing the perimeter exposes a very different vulnerability. Once the door is sealed, the threat is no longer the cold. It is what the silence does to the mind. Just a few months earlier, the primary struggle was gravity. The ant is a creature of heavy, burnished cardstock. Driven by the need for calories, he hauls multi-layered balsa wood seeds across a coarse sandpaper ground, his joints creaking under the weight of a 24-frame-per-second grind. While the ant focuses on grit beneath his feet, the grasshopper engineered an entirely different existence. He spent the warm months perched on fraying green cardstock, drawing a bow across a birch bark cello with spider silk strings, dedicating his energy entirely to the luxury of the present moment. The ant measures success in stockpiles, certain the music is a distraction from the coming frost. The grasshopper views the ant's relentless toil as waste of the golden light hitting the horizon, arguing that the song is the only thing that actually exists right now. The two stood on opposite sides of the season, each certain of their own strategy. One focused entirely on the fuel for the body, while the other lived entirely for the experience of the light. The seasonal change here is sudden and violent. The yellow paper sun is unbolted from the skyboard and pulled away, instantly stretching the shadows into long, predatory fingers. The grasshopper was built for the jump and the song. His fragile tissue paper construction has no defense against the cooling air, and as the moisture sets in, his spider silk strings snap under the tension. The ant sees the musician breaking down, but the momentum of the harvest is too great to stop. Fearing the judgment of the colony foreman, the ant turns back to his work, letting the heavy cardboard doors click shut on the frozen world. In a society structured purely around utilitarian output, there is no mechanism for mercy. If a creature doesn't provide a tangible, weighable resource, the system simply leaves it behind. Inside the hill, the air is thick with the smell of wood glue and fermenting grain. Thousands of ants are packed into the corridors, yet the atmosphere is one of absolute, suffocating silence. The workers move in their mechanical on-twos pattern, but their paper eyes have become vacant. They eat their grain, they sleep in rows, and they stare at the walls. Without any new stimulus or sound, their internal clockwork begins to wind down, their movements becoming slower and more aimless despite the full grain stores. Then, a faint vibration echoes through the ventilation shafts, a rhythmic tap-tap scrape. It's a tiny, persistent sound that breaks the vacuum of the hill, causing the catatonic workers to suddenly tilt their heads toward the vents. Physical safety is meaningless if the spirit decays. These ants have survived the winter, but in the total absence of connection or beauty, they have begun to lose the very will to move. The ant follows the sound to a secondary hatch and finds the grasshopper shivering in the draft. He is immediately confronted by the foreman, who insists that their limited rations are reserved for those who can carry a load. The ant points to the rows of listless workers. He argues that the colony is already dying from the inside out. They have the calories to live, but they have forgotten what they are living for. The ant proposes a contract. He will sacrifice his own secondary rations to keep the grasshopper alive. In exchange, the grasshopper will stay in the heat vent and perform. This wasn't a calculation the foreman understood. It was a recognition that for the worker to continue, he needed something the grain stores couldn't provide. The grasshopper adapts his artistry to the industrial environment. He taps his remaining legs against the metal rivets of the ventilation system and uses the hollow roots to create a low, rushing sound that mimics the summer breeze. The workers respond. Their jerky, mechanical marches transform into synchronized, energized movements. The on-two's rhythm becomes a collective dance, and they begin to share their resources more readily. The ant grows thin from sharing his food, his joints aching with a new kind of hunger. But every night, the rhythmic tapping in the vents gives him a sense of lightness that he never knew during the frantic summer harvest. The song provided the momentum the workers had lost. It turned the grueling winter into a collective effort, fueling their endurance through the darkest stretch of the season. Eventually, the white disk is unbolted and the yellow sun returns. The world they step into is a mess of soggy cardboard and gray slush, requiring a massive amount of physical labor to rebuild. But the model has changed. The ant prepares to carve a new cello for the grasshopper from a balsa wood branch. As the colony works the fields, the grasshopper will sit on the highest rivet to keep the beat. The ant has stopped counting only the calories. He has learned that while the harvest is necessary, the music is what makes the work sustainable. We build thick walls to keep the cold away, but it is the shared joy of the song that gives us a reason to open the doors and step back into the world.